Hi, everybody, and welcome to Title II Tuesday, brought to you by the Center for Inclusive Teaching and Learning here at UWSP. All right, it's week 5 of the term, and if you've been following along with our bite-sized remediation, you've already accomplished a lot. You've cleaned out your course and prepared video content for caption remediation by the CITL team of employees. Maybe you've even started examining your video captions on your own and making sure that they're accurate. You've probably even dealt with some color issues that affect accessibility. Now we're moving on to the issue of links in your Canvas pages, assignments, quizzes, and what have you. Before we get started on the how-tos, let's think for a little bit about the whys. Links are incredibly important to a lot of courses. Instructors provide their students with links to web pages, videos, and all sorts of content that we mean to help the students as they learn. But most of us think about links purely from a visual perspective. Consider how you know whether text on a web page links to some other resource. If you're like most sighted folks, you identify links because they're underlined and by their color. In most cases, unfollowed links are blue, a color that changes to purple after you've clicked them. Most of the time, it doesn't matter a lot to those of us who can see exactly what the text of the link is. We decide from the color, form, and context whether or not we want to click on the associated link. But learners with low vision or blindness don't respond to these visual cues. In fact, their entire experience with web content is mediated by the software they use to read the screen, which vocalizes the link text, then indicates that there is a link to something else. The screen reader will read whatever text is there. So, for the links we provide to students to be accessible to all, we need to consider how friendly the links are to reading. Using a URL for a link is not accessible. Think about the URL to one of our teaching tip videos, for example. Here's my screen reader dealing with it.
https://www. YouTube watch, v equals hoojoid 5ey, and t equals 5s.
Outside of the portion of the URL that indicates the link is to YouTube, there's no way to tell what the link is for. And I hope you noticed, the reading of the whole URL is as annoying as all get out. We don't want to subject anybody to that. Links that require the full context of surrounding text to be understood, such as click here or here, are just as bad. Why? Just as sighted people scan a page to get the gist before following links, students using screen readers don't stop in mid-sentence to follow a link. Instead, they're likely to read through the page, then go back to follow any relevant links, just like sighted people do. But they can't see the links in blue underlined text. Instead, they tab from link to link, and the screen reader reads the links as they do. So when using here or click here, we inadvertently introduce barriers to accessing the information hidden behind the links, because without the context provided by the surrounding text, there's no way for a person using a screen reader to determine what the link points to. Finally, file names are not good to use for links, and unfortunately, the default for Canvas when linking to a file is to use the file name as the link text. From an accessibility perspective, the file extension is one problem with using the file name. It doesn't help understand the linked item. Another problem that is probably more important is that when we name files, we do so for ourselves. Generally, folks like shorter file names, so they use abbreviations and catchphrases that are meaningful to the author in identifying which file is which, but these kinds of names are obscure from a student's perspective. So, what are we to do? The fundamental rule for all links should be that they indicate in an understandable way what clicking the link will lead to. In industry terms, we say that we use descriptive text for links. What are some examples of descriptive text? Well, you could use the title of a resource, such as a paper, an assignment, or a file, followed by the word paper or assignment, and then hyperlink that combination to the file or web location. You could just use the title of a web page. Or, in some cases, you might want to use the intended function of the hyperlinked URL. So, for example, rather than putting in Ticketmaster, you might indicate book Taylor Swift tickets as the linked text. There can be some other problems with links as well. There are often dead links, links that don't work, and ghost links, links that are not attached to text but to spaces, and adjacent links. Now let's think about fixing inaccessible links in Canvas. I urge you to begin by checking the validity of your links because you don't want dead links. A lot of times when we enter links, we enter them incorrectly, or a website reorganizes and links fail. Before we start remediating the text of links to make them accessible, we should check that our links are actually working. To do this, access your course settings down at the bottom of the blue course menu on the left of your Canvas screen. Once in the settings interface, notice in the gray menu on the right of your screen, you have an option to validate links. Click it, and then click the button to validate links. This should turn up any links that don't point to actual websites or resources. Take stock of the links with issues. Click the page, assignment, or discussion with the bad link and enter the rich content editor. I can see here that the URL text of the first link is bad because it says YouTube. I'm going to correct the URL in the linked text. I should probably just remove the URL and insert descriptive text while I'm here, but I want this error for later, so I'm only going to correct the least amount right now. Okay, if you click into the link text, you can reveal options and validate that the URL indicated is accurate. Click Done to save your changes. If the URL that you see in the link options doesn't have any obvious errors, then the link is dead for another reason. Probably the website has reorganized or you just typed it in way wrong. So you'll have to relocate the resource that you're trying to point to and replace the URL with the valid URL for the resource that you intend. Save the page and you can move on to other invalid links in the validity checker. Once you've made all your corrections of links, revalidate to make sure that you got them all. Bingo, you aren't going to waste any time making bad links accessible. Now let's move on to the accessibility component. As always, we're going to start with a You-Do-It scan of the remediation sandbox. Once the scan is complete, access the You Fix It tab. Then let's filter for issues associated with links. We have 3 errors that are related to links. One is that links have nondescript text. Another is that adjacent links were found. And finally, that links should contain text. So we're going to access the filter menu by clicking on the filter button. Then we'll scroll down to the bottom where there are types and select links. This will show errors of all 3 types that are related to links. If this box doesn't appear in your menu, you can use the Issues box to individually select each of the 3 link issues. You should also filter by active issues since you don't want to look at things that have already been fixed. Then click Done. Easy peasy. Now we have a nice manageable list of errors to deal with this week. Let's just go down the list. First, we have adjacent links. We have to access these from the page, since as the note indicates, we can't remediate this from the YouFixit interface. So we go to the page by clicking on the title and enter the rich content editor to find the adjacent links. I've inadvertently linked the same URL to both words, search and engine. Okay, I did it intentionally, but whatever. I don't need 2 links here, so I'll click into the text of search and then I can see the Google URL. But I want the text to include both words, so I add engine here to the link text and then click Done. Now I just need to delete the second engine with its associated link. This kind of adjacent link problem is not very common. You usually get it when you've edited link text excessively. Now, I know I've got a couple more adjacent link problems right here, so I'm going to fix them while I'm here. This one shows us 2 links for different search engines that are adjacent. How should we break these up? Best practice when you have a list of links is to format it as a list. I'll put a carriage return between the text and the first link, then a carriage return between the 2 links. Now in the ribbon, I'll select a bulleted list. This automatically sets the indent to flush left, which I hate because of my own visual difficulties. I like to see where lists are from the page shape, so I'll indent this beneath the other text. Note that I'm not fixing the text of these links right now, even though I know that URLs are not good text for hyperlinks. I could do that here, but I want to use these errors later. Okay, I'll save my work and I'll head back to the You Do It tab. Now, here's a problem. I've fixed a couple of things, but this page doesn't automatically update based on the corrections that I've made. It doesn't know that I fixed any problems, and it's pointless to try to fix something twice. You'll get an error message. So I'm going to rescan the course. And when the scan is completed, you'll see that my adjacent links problem is no longer there. Okay. For other issues, it's possible to correct directly from the YouFixit interface. So for links that have no text, these are the ghost links that I mentioned, you can just delete the link. That's simple. Ghost links often happen when you've deleted a link, but the link included a space and you didn't delete the space. So crazy stuff, but easy to fix. For links where the text is not descriptive, you just need to enter new text. What you choose as the text, remember, should correspond to what is relevant about the link. Any file you link to will use the name of the file as the default link text. But as we all know, the names we choose for files, although they make perfect sense to us, may not be adequately descriptive for students. So begin by removing the file extension, since this isn't relevant information to convey. Then make sure that the text of the link, which is likely the file title, indicates what is in the file in a way that somebody could understand it if the computer read it aloud to them with no other information. Abbreviations, draft numbers, years, idiosyncratic nonsense words, and shortened codes that only you use in file titles are not your friends here. Even though I know what my messed up document is, I can't expect my students to know this from the title. So I'm changing the text on the link to something that is more understandable from their perspective. For example, here I want the students to book a flight to Vegas. Hey, this is my fake course, don't judge. But the text I've used here is not descriptive of what the link is. I don't think Travelocity would be understood by all students. So I choose Visit Fabulous Las Vegas as the descriptive text because that is the purpose of the link that I want to convey. I could have put book your flight to Fabulous Las Vegas, which would probably be better, but anyway, after I change the link, it makes the surrounding text redundant. So I have to visit the page to clean it all up. I don't need all of the extra text, and I make the changes here, deleting the extra text, and head back to You Do It, where I'm going to rescan the course, and bingo, all of your link errors have been corrected. Making your links accessible is relatively easy. Remember to use meaningful, descriptive text in the link. No URLs, click here's, or file extensions. The text of the link should indicate the nature of the resource being linked in a way that's meaningful to students. Eliminate ghost links and format lists of links as lists. And that's this week's Title II tip, brought to you by the Center for Inclusive Teaching and Learning here at UWSP. Remember, at CITL, we offer support for course design, learning activities, assessment, pedagogy, and accessibility. Visit our website to schedule a consultation today.